Karishma Sudani from Business to Television, Shashank Mattu from India Today Global. Remember, all on network, full-on group is currently tracking this biggest global headline right now. Karishma, I'll let you make that point now, and I hope that your audio is back on. Go ahead about this China-EU alliance coming in.
Well, Pooja, one of the biggest reasons why this alliance was taking shape was because of the shift in the market supply, and the situation panning out was slightly different of what has happened last night. The EU was also looking at retaliatory tariffs against the US. They were trying to come out with a fine print very soon, but with the USA taking the step in, rather the paradigm shift could be slightly different now, because EU will actually gain out of this 10% tariff with the United States, rather than coming up with another cooperative bilateral mechanism with China. Now, let's not forget that it is because majorly of the electric vehicles that EU wanted to try and find a way out with China, because of the domination that China holds when the USA is imposing larger tax. But I think it's very important for us to currently address that the silver lining here is now for India. And we've been talking about China plus one policy. Though we were looking at a China plus 5 policy, this is the time where India could get a notch up in terms of increasing its exports and pushing Make in India.
Karishma, Shivani, Shashank, please stay on with me, because without a doubt, remember, this is the big global highlight. Every country is involved here, including India. US President Donald Trump officially for now pausing the reciprocal tariff for 90 days. This comes 24 hours after it came into effect. Remember, there was a fear of a major trade war, possibly a global market meltdown, and then a concern of a looming global recession. He took to Truth Social, it's a social media platform. The incumbent US president says 75 countries did not retaliate against the USA. Therefore, he's authorizing a 90-day pause, which is approximately about 3 months on the reciprocal tariff. But, however, 10% baseline tariff continues to stay for at least 90 days. He's also announced a steep hike in tariffs on China to 125% from the earlier 104%. It's for China. That is where perhaps a different decision is taken, that there's a massive higher hike that has been made for China. A move already drawing further retaliation from Beijing, both countries not backing down. Donald Trump, lashing out at China, says he's hopeful that possibly China will realize soon that they cannot rip off the USA any longer.
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know, they were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. And if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have a country. It wouldn't be sustainable. So I'm honored to have done it. I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate, because I told them, if you retaliate, we're going to double it. And that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate. So we'll see how it all works out. I think it's going to work out amazing. I think that our country is going to be at the end of a year or shorter, but I think we're going to have something that nobody would have dreamt possible. You have to have flexibility. I could say, here's a wall, and I'm going to go through that wall. I'm going to go through it no matter what, and keep going, and you can't go through the wall. Sometimes you have to be able to go under the wall, around the wall, or over the wall. I think in financial markets, because they change. Look how much it changed today. We went from, you know, pretty moderate today, but over the last few days it looked pretty glum, to, I guess they say it was the biggest day in financial history. That's a pretty big change. No other president would have done what I did. No other president. I know the presidents, they wouldn't have done it. And it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, you know, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also, but somebody had to do it. They had to stop, because it was not sustainable. Last year, China made $1 trillion off trade with the United States. That's not right. And now I've reversed it.
No, it's because it's going to, because of the large number of inbounds, we've had more than 75 countries contact us, and I imagine after today there will be more. So it is just a processing problem. Each one of these solutions is going to be bespoke. It is going to take some time, and President Trump wants to be personally involved. So that's why we're getting the 90-day pause. It's about bad actors, and what we will see is some of the very early countries are China's neighbors. That we're going to see. I'm seeing Vietnam today. Japan's at the front of the queue. South Korea, India. So we will see. And as I've repeatedly said, and President Trump has been saying it for years, China is the most imbalanced economy in the history of the modern world, and they are the biggest source of the U.S. trade problems. And indeed, they are problems for the rest of the world, because what we've seen is that as the U.S. announced the tariff wall last week, many of those goods have already started flooding into Europe.
In the effort of transparency, we're here to talk about the president's latest statement regarding his America First trade plan. As you all know, the president just put out a statement announcing an additional tariff on China. The tariff on China will now go up to 125%. because China imprudently decided to retaliate against the United States. And as I said at the podium yesterday, when you punch at the United States of America, President Trump is going to punch back harder. In that same vein, we have had more than 75 countries from around the world reach out to President Trump and his team here at the White House to negotiate better trade deals for the American worker. We have been overwhelmed with the amount of requests from countries around the world. I'll let the Secretary speak to that. We will continue with the tailor-made negotiations that I spoke about yesterday. In the meantime, there will be a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs as these negotiations are ongoing, and the tariff level will be brought down to a universal 10% tariff. The Secretary here has been a huge part of the President's trade team, of course, and will continue to lead these negotiations moving forward to look out for the American worker, which is always President Trump's goal. So
Karishma, Shivani, Shashank continue to be with us. Karishma, first a quick question from you, because that's what will bring clarity to the viewer as well. India is on the list of these 75 countries. What are you picking up about that?
Pooja, it's a clear silver lining for India. We are the silent gainers, or the indirect gainers out of this, because with China having high tariffs, the next +1 or the +2 countries that the US may want to trade with for the benefit of its importers would be Vietnam or India. And India holds a first mover advantage here because of our bilateral relationships with the United States of America. And the fact that we have a BTA that's fast approaching, going to be fulfilled, is going to put a soft cushion our efforts in order to increase our trade with the United States of America. The sectors that we need to watch out are clearly semiconductors, electric EVs, because that is one emerging sector on which I think the global economy has been dependent on China.